All right.
See you.
Yeah. It was well. How you been?
Good. You're in the same place.
I am still, but it's almost over. We it started with like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to put a fresh coat of paint on? And then it was, oh, let's change out the flooring in the kitchen. And then let's change out the flooring in the whole first floor. And then let's remodel the bathroom. And this is not even our own house. This is just, but we intend to settle in there as if it's our own. So that's what we're doing. And so yeah, we haven't actually moved anything. And when we do, my office will be the lowest priority of the things we move. So from this point of view, it's as if nothing's happened, except I've got paint all over my shirt and whatnot.
Your body's broken and you're worn out and tired.
I'm so tired, but we're way over the hill. The painting's done, the flooring's done,
Hmm.
the plumbing is done. Closing up the wall and finishing the shower is the
Hmm.
last thing, and then we will move and we'll have all that done by the end of the month, and we will be happily ever after with no stressors in our lives, therefore, going forward. Uh, at least, we're motivated. So, but yeah, it's been exhausting. And I think the last time we really spoke, I was just like, that was what I guess that was a month ago, about or 4 weeks
It might
ago.
have been 6 weeks.
6 weeks even.
I don't
Jeez.
exactly remember it.
I think, yeah, I was anxious that we were even going to be able to move, and then we got it, and then it's just been like my world's been completely blown up. So, yeah, it's good to reconnect. You seem
Hmm.
well. You
I
got a good
am.
energy about you.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a long time coming, but I'm coming out of like a dark cave.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a combination of lots of stuff. A lot of it having to do with my kids and my work too. I mean, and my body. Uh So it's like where to begin, but you're definitely seeing a glow here and it's feeling good.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I'm sure that well, it's not really been super springy on the
No,
calendar. It's spring, but I feel like it's been a little back and forth. But we had such a nice winter as winters go. Such a
true.
mild and sunny winter. Uh, but I'm kind of feeling that actual summer is around the corner. I'm getting excited about it.
I know. I'm really
Uh,
looking forward to the hammock in the yard
oh yeah,
and being warm.
yeah, yeah. Get some sunshine. Already the sun. I mean, I'm looking outside here and I can still see the sky. It's
Mm,
8:08 and the light's still on a little bit. Uh,
nice. Yeah.
so
I work in my basement and it's like time just stands still.
oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
It's all right.
Uh, well, uh, what do you? Yeah, I was looking back over the structure you proposed
Yeah.
seemingly a billion years ago now, and I find myself really liking it. Or I feel like there's a lot to work with there, and I some of which involves like genuinely new material for me, which I think is exciting.
Cool.
Like I think of all the books, I haven't read any of them,
I
which is exciting.
prepared a little bit to go over that stuff with you tonight.
Okay, great.
I mean, not that it's just kind of sets the stage, right, for what we want to do. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's still I'm still curious about that. So I don't have a master plan here other than being connected. I did have a really nice chat with a man named Bill Ash, which was a
Oh
guest at
yeah.
the salon.
I was curious how that went.
It went great. I published it on Substack and it's on my YouTube, which is like my private personal Matt Horvat YouTube. And I've gotten 2 views. One was Bill, and I think the other one was my dad.
Well, I'll try to find that. Uh,
I'll send a link to you afterwards.
okay.
We just talked about his book. In his book, he talked about reauthoring, and I was interested in that. And it was just nice to say hello to the man. He's just really friendly, and Um, People who have intentionality about how they want to live, I admire those folks and I want to be that person. I want to be like those people. So it's just like whenever I'm around somebody who's making a difference in their own life, I'm just, how do I do what you do?
Yeah. You know, I feel the same, but I can't hear you say that without immediately wanting to, from my own point of view, qualify that, I was raised in a religious environment and the type of intention, you know, th there was a lot of intentionality in the communities I was raised in, but, you know, not ultimately intentionality that I could find myself like hopping on the bandwagon with because, the like a lot of people, there's a sort of peace of mind and a centeredness and a focus and a like imperviousness to or imperviousness perhaps, but I think maybe like imperturbability to some degree. Because as long as you can be focused on what you want to be focused on, it's in some level like everything else doesn't matter. And I feel like the a strong reaction of my childhood was the sense that but other things do in fact matter other than just what I've decided to assert matters. And principally, they matter because other people matter, and because irrespective of my own approach to finding serenity, it's like unless I don't care about other people, then then their lack of serenity matters. And it's kind of my dad's my dad was a preacher, and his answer to all problems was almost always like, well, if they were a better Christian, which better Christian means ultimately, from his point of view, the ability to put it out of mind by, trusting in the Lord or whatever, and just recentering around
Yeah.
the intention of glorifying God and all that. And, on the surface, I never really struggled with that, but I always was caught up on the part of like, but people are hurting. And it's
Mm.
like, being blissful in the presence of other people's pain can add to their pain. you know, uh, or
Mm.
it can seem indifferent or dismissive towards their pain, and it is so bound up in me that I find myself like sharing the ambition you just stated, but also like constantly checking every method I might utilize to like have intention and let it sort of center me and bring me that peace and that excitement and enthusiasm and focus and all of these positive things, always scrutinizing whether or not that is hmm, the word that comes to mind. I don't stand on this word, but the word that comes to mind is imaginary. And I don't want to stand on that because I think a lot of really important things are imaginary. Maybe reality itself is imaginary. I don't want to push that too hard, but there was just this sense, uh, if I make up something to focus my intentions and to bring me that everything else, then that is a way to do it, but seemingly at the risk of being dismissive towards all the other real concerns around you,
Mm.
and in particular in the form of people. It's like I can't pretend that we can be concerned about everything or whatever. It's not really within our organismic potential, but we can care about people. I mean, that's what we do, and
And what,
I
I
want
mean,
to do that.
was there also this underlying context of like life after death? So a level of seriousness going on in the conversation that like really mattered?
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard for me even still now to acknowledge that, but that was there. And I just can't,
Yeah.
I personally can't find myself caring about this problem. It seems so non-present. It's just like, well, at some point I'll be dead
Mm.
and I guess we can deal with it. But, it's just this whole like, you're going to induce upon me some
Okay.
fear about what's going to happen after this and then sell me the solution to the problem. And,
Ah.
it's just like, I just actually worried about right now, actually.
So So let's dive into the six basic moods framework and see where we can
Yeah.
land guilt and shame.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, I've heard people talk about these mechanisms or these leverages within religion around guilt and shame and how, like, different spiritual practices encourage like one form or the other of like mass manipulation.
Mm.
I don't have a ton of experience with that, but it makes sense. I mean, it's like it seems to fit. Let me
I mean,
see if I
and
can share a note.
oh yeah,
But head now
I
I
saw
just
your
can't.
video, by the way. I
Right
appreciate it.
on, right
How
on. If
long
we
did it
could,
take to get those images?
you know how I did that was that was a lot of fun. By the way, before we keep going, I've got to make an adjustment here so I can actually see your face again. I
Okay.
minimized the screen, and now that I'm sharing, I can't see you. Okay, now I can see you. Can you see my this note?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I did a lot of free writing to make uh the overall context, and then I used Chat GPT to uh outline that presentation, and then asked it to create images for different sections. So, and it was 30 minutes, man. It was
Awesome.
amazingly fast. After I got my free writing down for what I wanted to say, not super organized, and it wasn't like I'd reviewed my draft and rewrote and edited. I just had like a giant stream of consciousness for everything I wanted to say about that stuff. Then I used it to organize my thinking, create an outline, create talking points, create the slides, create images to go in the slides, and then give me a narrative that I can read a script. And it did all that. And then I presented it. I had to actually record it 5 or 6 times because I'm a klutz when it comes to pre-recording presentations. So like that took me a little bit to get ready as far as you saw it. But all in all, it was a light lift for what would have been 5 years ago a phenomenal amount of work.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, so anyway,
That's awesome.
um, I've got three things on here. The six basic moods is I'm getting a lot of value out of it, and I'm making a lot of sense out of it too. And that's really where I'd like to start. It's also the one that is it's like the undercover um like elephant in the room. I think when it comes to coaching practices, I expect most coaches know this stuff and use it every day. I'm very much a learner, and it's not like socially acceptable in my work environment to like jump into this content right away. So it's something I'm
Mm.
trying to learn to keep in the background as I interact with people. Um, and when it's presented by the authors or reports of other authors, they don't actually use this top context of history, present, future. It's not the time scale. It's something else, which is more like facts and then options or choices and then uncertainty,
Mm. Okay.
which actually speaks to me as past, present, and future. And that seems like a more simple way to understand it. Like if
Sure.
things happen in the past you don't like and you're escaping them, you're in a mood of resentment. If you accept the past for it is what it is, you're in a mood of peace. You can accept it. Even if you don't like it, if you can accept it, you're feeling fine. And it's like that with choices. If you're at this crossroads and you want to escape and not face the truth or the don't want to bring the courage up to do the hard thing, you might be resigned about whatever, and that's a mood, or you might be ambitious, and the same is true for the future. So
Yeah.
anxiety, and so maybe the whole shame guilt thing leads to a denial of anxiety, and it's just like different, you know, social norms for handling anxiety is. We don't talk about that,
Yeah.
or
Is this is the general suggestion that these moods are like fundamental and inescapable and therefore like needing to be acknowledged and reckoned with aspects of our experience, or is there something more prescriptive going on in the in the I find it handy just to be able to identify the mood I'm in or the another person's in because it tells me what I'm trying to do, or what my organism is essentially doing in the moment, and
Mm,
like how I can dance with that, uh, without stepping on the toes, as it were. Um, and I, but it seems like that there would be there's a tendency in a lot of like therapeutic or coaching or even in religious uh practice to try to deny, hate, and escape the entire deny, hate, and escape uh row. you know, um, to treat those as if they were bad, right? And
yep.
the consequences of acceptance, love, and the felt sense of safety, that those moods are good. And what's your experience with this, or or the originators of this framework? Even is there a
Well, um, I've heard it said that we can be in a hidden mood. And so, like, you know, sorry to be so blunt and uncaring in my language here, but say, like, a super fat person who eats all the time but says they're fine,
mm,
you know,
hmm
they don't know. It's like they're not aware of it yet, but they're feeling resigned resentment or anxiety, and they're coping with that through their behaviors. And so, but I mean, like, and these are the basic moods. I mean, there's a spectrum on all this stuff, and there can be 100 different names for moods. It's just that, I mean, philosophers have come up with this as a framework, but it makes a lot of sense because it's like it matches two important things: our orientation to time and love and hate.
hmm
That's those are pretty fundamental aspects of our beings and our emotions and how we're wired and our social relations and all that.
yeah. And I guess we are tempted to always, there is that sense that if there's not, let's call it just row A, there's deny, hate, escape row. If that's happening, then from a social point of view, it may be as if there was a problem that needed addressed. And if we're in these other moods, then there's no problem. And so, of course, our social conditioning is to project no problem. Unless we're in a very desperate place, we're not likely to want to seem these ways, right? Even
Rock,
if we are feeling these
rock bottom.
things. Yeah. And I personally always feel like that's the test of the type of company I want to keep, is the company that will allow me to be in the mood I'm in,
Mm,
regardless of
yeah.
what, might be expected or wanted.
Hmm.
And also to say, you know, I'm feeling anxious and I don't want to talk about it.
Mm,
uh,
that's okay
you
too.
know, and it's like I can acknowledge that it may be a thing to address, but let's not. Uh,
I'm not ready.
and to just right. And because I guess all of these also have a sort of meta level, your because they're all basically relational, right? So it's like relating to the facts of the past, the decisions of the present, the uncertainties of the future. We can have the feeling or the mood, the feeling slash mood complex induced by our awareness of that. And, there's like all these different levels of relating to
Mm,
these fundamental feelings. And at any given moment, we might be, you
mm.
know, I'm, I'm anxious about the fact that I'm ambitious.
Yeah.
um, you know,
Yeah, you know
and
what? I got to add something else here that you're making me think about, and it's like orders of it's like reflections of reflections. Some people say it's like orders of consciousness. I mean, people put numbers to it, although it's not appropriate to do that. We still do it and say like
mm,
our reflection on our anxiety or our reflection on our peace leading to anxiety. That could be called a first order level of awareness, or maybe actually that's a second order of awareness. The first order of awareness is actually having the experience of the mood. The second order is the reflection on that. So, like our assessment of the mood, is this serving us? That might be the
mm,
second. The third order might be, what are we going to do about our assessment of the mood we're in? Our fourth order might be like, do we like what we're doing about the mood that we're in, or some craziness in it? You
Yeah,
can just
right.
carry on because this is all
Yeah,
just number theory. It doesn't
yeah.
really apply, but orders of consciousness is a really important part of this.
It kind of evokes the image of spinning wheels,
Yeah.
or that sense that like we're putting energy into this thing, but that energy is not transmitting down to the ground, as it were, whatever the ground is. And but that ground is the place where we don't have to qualify it further, right? Where we've stopped having much to say about it, and it just is. I don't like this, or I do like this, and I think as it relates to work, a thing that there's the question of self-observation, and but then there's also very clearly the self that is constructed by the specific work environment that we find ourselves
Uh,
in routinely. And are there tendencies within those environments or the structures that we have to interact with that like routinely bring you up to one of these reflective levels? The question isn't how you feel, but what you're doing about how you feel or whatever.
yeah.
And I suppose the value being simply just to acknowledge all of this, right? Like that if we
Hmm.
can observe it
Self
and see
awareness.
it, then more feelings and moods will
Yeah.
come out or relate to that. And it's I think it, I think that there's a we're our own ability to change our own perspective is so profound, and especially in like a coaching type environment. Like if I can get you to take a different look at yourself, and that leads you to having novel feelings or a sense of relief from your previous frame, then that feels like a really like therapeutic and progressive session where we had a breakthrough or whatever. But if finally it's just to send you back into the same situation that's going to grind you up in the same way to have the same feeling to have, then there's a there's a limit there. But maybe when we're doing coaching, we don't want to there. I guess what I'm saying is professionally, perhaps there's like a structural danger in dealing too much with the parts of ourself that are not strictly uh that are we're, to, the external forces that impact us rather than simply the way we respond to those forces. Um, it may be harder to create a satisfying feeling in the moment about engaging with those things because we don't have control over them and all of that, or at least not in the most straightforward way. But finally, when I think about like the resignation versus ambition do polarity there,
Mm.
very frequently the ambition is to try to coordinate with people to have a sense of agency
Yeah.
where you don't feel like you have a sense of agency,
Yeah.
or to resign that, well, I'm just going to have to feel this agencylessness and just accept that. And kind of, I want to, I think there's packaged in here some sort of little criticism I've observed of, I guess, the business model of coaching and the way that, um, like creating a satisfactory feeling in the moment can be good for your business. Encouraging people to do things that are hard may not lead to the same sort of positive feedback all the time, but could lead to actual changes that matter to people. And um, I want personally to be doing things that encourages people to try to do those things that are hard. I want to help you feel
Mm.
confidence and support while you're doing it. But the 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 work we can do purely internally, not to invoke the internal external dualism, but the work that we can do purely internally is important because of what it can enable for us externally and intersubjectively and communally and everything. This is, I guess, just my
Yeah.
ideology I'm imposing on this, but this is how I feel.
Yeah.
And
No. I might add that even having the awareness of how I'm feeling in the moment, when there's something that's hitting me that I'm not liking, I've learned to like take a break, take a walk out of the room, you know, go to the bathroom because I got to take a leak, whatever it is. Those are really helpful strategies so that I don't shame someone and get me in trouble or
Right.
argue with somebody who's got more power than me. I'm not using this stuff as a coach to train others on mood management. I'm using this for managing myself. And that's all this is
Mhm.
about because I just have to be able to identify when I should, care for somebody who's hierarchically above me that may not be aware of the same things I know. And I want to be ambitious and they have a different pathway they're going down and they're not willing to change or listen and are too busy talking, it's annoying, And I got to think, well, I guess this is just the old analogy. Like, is this I'm going to die on my sword here or not?
Right.
And it's so nice to have this kind of tool set available to me to know and be aware. Like, I don't have to hang on to everything like a pit bull. I
Yeah.
can separate myself, come back, take a few deep breaths, calm down a little bit, think of new strategies because if I want to make somebody be, yeah, anyway, all that.
Well, I think that the as you say that, what I think the unifying thought that comes to mind is like self-observation is in some way it's just that self-focused same thing we do when we empathize with someone in an active way, right? I mean, it's one thing to kind of like listen to you and pick up your vibe and just kind of feel and flow with whatever. But thinking in a very, if I try to think in a more structured way, to really like more actively construct a model of what your experience might
Mm,
be like, that same kind of model I might need to construct of myself to get a sense of my own experience because we gloss over these things in our, things that are familiar become almost like they don't exist at all, right? It's unnoticed because it's so familiar. And it sometimes
mm,
requires a framework like the six moods or any other framework to kind of just force a recognition of
yeah,
something that's always been present and perceived, but just not really attended to. And that same, when we don't lash out at our superiors, you know, it's strategic for us because we don't have to fight with them and die on that particular hill. But it's also strategic for us because we're learning about who they are
yeah,
and like how to dance with them
that's right.
in a way that gets us both where we want to go.
Right.
And it's
That's the
really the
good play.
same skill, right? In either case, it's like whether I'm acknowledging myself or acknowledging the person I may enter into conflict with. I mean, it really is. I mean, what are all these things? These are all forms of self-conflict, right? All self-conflict or the lack thereof, these
Hmm.
moods, right?
Mm,
So the fact that it's another person
mm,
isn't doesn't really change anything. And in some way, we have to other ourselves through these. We don't have to, but it's useful to other ourselves through some of these
yeah.
frameworks to get that same perspective that would help us with others. I'm getting circular here, but you know what I'm saying.
No, it's all good, man. I mean, it's like why we need to do loving kindness meditations.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, let's hit a few others just because my cheapy free version here is running out of
Oh
time.
yeah, time flies so fast. Okay.
However, I am recommitting to our biweekly schedule uh, whenever possible.
I feel I don't want to over promise, but I'm really feeling like I'm almost through this morass,
It's
and
all right, man.
I'm very excited to press
It's all right.
forward.
No
And I really
worries.
appreciate your patience uh,
It's not you.
today.
It's not you, man. I've been in a lot of resentment and resignation and anxiety in the last 5 years. A lot more in the last 5 years than I ever thought possible in my life. And also my body's been really hurting. So like that's the other one.
Mm.
Um, it's I think wise to believe our memories are contained in our nervous system and you know, our prefrontal cortex and all this stuff is just an extension of our body. like our neurons, it's all connected. I mean, maybe we've got like a gut brain and a heart brain and a, you know, gray matter brain. However, regardless, it's all neurons and it all matters. It's all networks of electrical connections that connect up our physical body with, you know, this meat bag. And if there's something hurting and I'm stuck, it's connected to a story. It's got a connection to an emotion. And for healing to occur, I believe it occurs on those levels and they're connected.
Hmm.
I mean, that's definitely, that's definitely real for me. And so,
Yeah.
pain score is like, I don't have a better way to describe it, but like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hurt right now?
Yeah, I'm feeling like a 7 at the moment.
Damn.
Oh,
Oh, we could probably even do this on like
it's gonna
an
get better.
anxiety, like I'm a 5, but I think I'm going to be a 9. It's like coming into grips with our mortality and having one foot in the grave. That's all coming. I mean, this is major. I mean, this is major for people, for all of us. I mean, we're all mortal.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm doing my retirement planning in the background. I'm like end of life date planning. And I'm like, uh, yeah, all these questions are coming up for real. And it's like, well, what do I really care about? What do I really care about when I'm dead?
Hmm. Man,
Okay.
or right before.
Comments or questions about that, and then we'll move to the next.
Yeah. Uh, let's move to the next because we're gonna
So,
run out of
linguistic
time.
action, I mean, everywhere I've gone in the coaching space, thank you, Fernando Flores, for bringing this up and connecting it with John Searle's world. A lot of this linguistic action research came out of like Winston Churchill era thinking around effective management. And people were studying what is it to be effective during the Industrial Revolution. And the philosophers came up with, the way we speak matters, obviously. And so it's kind of been a hidden gem. So we need to know these things and use them to our advantage. There are only 5 linguistic actions we can take with our mouth, besides nonsense or chintzy chit chat, gossipy utterances. And in fact, recent studies have shown that like 85 or 90% of everything we say is meaningless utterances. Most of it has nothing to do, it's just gossip. So we need to really know about how to use this stuff effectively to impact the future. And it's amazing when you become aware of your assessment making machine, you start to understand, I mean, it's like the foundation of empathy. It's like it's like starting to get the map for the network of people around you. And we live in these relationships that are all formed in assessments. And if we can't say that's an assessment, we're stuck. Um, the
Yeah.
assertions, I mean, I don't know if this stuff, how brand new to this stuff are you?
For this, less brand new, and I have a lot. It really excites me, and I have a lot I want to jump into with it. And actually, raising this question, the question of linguistic action, is I mean, obviously, it was on our list here,
Yeah.
but it didn't really dawn on me until you brought up this slide and going through these notes how much I how many thoughts I have about this, how much I'd like to say, how much I'd like to hear from you on it, because I think that there's
Yeah.
a lot of complexity hidden in the simplicity of these 5 tools.
Yeah.
And there's also some stuff that in the past few years, have written that's kind of completely have read, good God, that has kind of blown my mind a little bit with how I think about all this. And I don't think completely obliterated it, but caused some, maybe turned these into nested dolls. Like maybe all forms of speech are at bottom requests, and then there are maybe different versions of requests because at bottom, all speech is a request for attention. And then there's a question of what we're attending to. What am I asking you to attend to? Maybe I'm asking you to attend to a further commitment that I want you to make, or action I want you to take. But at very least, I'm asking for your attention always. And one could argue, perhaps, though, in the case of, because my first objection, or just a little addition I wanted to make to the fight was like, well, what about when we cry when we're alone? What about when we moan? There are,
Hold on.
yeah, but we don't need to get into that now. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you'd like to spend 15 more minutes, let me just make a new calendar invite because it'd be nice to make this conversation done before we get kicked off.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm into that.
All right.
Maybe
So
I can I
let me just
Yeah,
let me just
let's do
go
it.
let me just go grab a new Zoom link and I'll chat you back.
All right, sounds good.
All right then. I'm gonna say goodbye for now and I'll see you in a few minutes.
All right. Hello. All right.
Yeah, assessments. The other thing that struck me as a real powerful concept was that when I was recognizing that our moods are assessments. Our moods are assessments that we've lost awareness of.
Mm.
Like I show up and I'm a dickhead to my colleagues at work, and I don't even mean to. Well, that's a mood based on opinions that I have about something. What is it? Have I
Hmm.
been chronically stressed? Am I having a real shitty time at home? Uh, am I annoyed with everybody I work with and just like haven't come to grips with my crappy job? Like, why am I
Hmm.
being an asshole right now? And that's not, I mean, like, that's been like major blind spots in my own personal life. Like, I
Yeah,
feel lucky. I feel gracious for people because of how badly I've treated others.
I can relate.
Oh, and like, I've lost so many relationships too for my unconscious moods of my biases, the way I unconsciously think women should behave uh, has not been super. I didn't get married until I was in my late 30s. I mean, I tried lots. It wasn't for lack of trying.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think that is back to the what hill am I going to die on sort of thing. It's like, assessments can be the basis for that type of determined, dogmatic, uh, stubborn insistence on whatever that assessment is. But they also can be just accretions from our culture or things that come up from our childhood that are not things that we, upon examination, actually embrace, but that until we examine and reject them or let them go, control us, right? And or determine our moods and the consequences thereof. And I think so much of the Speech Act question, again, it happens in our internal discourse as much or more importantly as a pretext for our external discourse. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy to focus on but I said, I get in this with my wife a lot. We're culturally are so different that the basic expectations for, the things that are known without having to say them, they're just different.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I will choose to be playful sometimes is also encoded within that is a bunch of the values that I was raised up with or adjacent to, or even if it's not understood, even if even if that encoding does not suggest you need to embrace these values, it assumes that you're aware of them and treat them as like present realities to banter about or have feelings about or whatever. And when I find myself in that, sometimes it's when I'm in my most playful mood that I will forget who I am and who I'm talking to and say a thing that is completely destructive to the fun that I was hoping to have with that playful mood because it was careless, as it turns out. And that carelessness gave me permission, or that the playfulness gave me permission to be careless, apparently. And that works when you have a lot of shared assumptions about what you mean when you crack a joke, for example. And when you
Yeah.
don't share all of those assumptions, then
Yeah.
it's
That comes up for me a lot around request making. I for 5 years I was trained. I was a trainer for construction project teams to make effective requests and promises. That was actually how I got exposed to all this content. I'd worked in construction for 2 or 3 years, and then I'd met some consultants that were doing training for project managers and superintendents on the job site with linguistic action. And so for 5 years, I did I understudied one of Fernando Flores's students in linguistic action and trained job site teams on these major job sites all over the Southwest from Texas to San Francisco. And so like requests became like my meat and potatoes. But I'm also a white man, and being assertive is
natural,
like
huh?
bold. It's like expected. It's like people want gregarious like leaders, and standing up in front of 100 people and talking about stuff is like it was a thrill. And that coupled with then specific training around making requests is fine. But then meeting people who like hardly ever ask for what they want, or think it's rude to ask for what they want, or think that they shouldn't want anything and that it's like they should be subservient to the greater good. And so I find myself like annoyed at people's inability to be clear and direct. Or
Yeah,
I will be, I interact with some groups at work who may be just like a bit, I characterize it as fearful. And I say, can I please do this? And I hear nothing. I just get ghosted by these folks. And so it's, well, I guess the key to unlock success here is self-awareness, and also awareness of that other person, because I got to care for them, back to the point of like taking a break. I got to know who my audience is so I can work with them and, meet them where they're at.
yeah. I think that so much of the speech act, it's like in evolution, there is no, we talk about survival of the fittest, but fitness is entirely relational to the circumstance and the environment and
Hmm.
everything else. There is no something that makes you more or less fit in objective terms. And the same is true with the speech acts, right? It's like the key is to observe it, to see it for what it is, so that you can bring whatever tools you come to the interaction with and at least apply the ones that are appropriate in the moment. And maybe, if necessary, develop some new ones
Hmm.
as you go. But it's not, I feel like so much I resonate so strongly with that feeling of, ultimately, why can't you be more like me?
Hmm.
You know, uh, you
Yeah.
know,
Right.
if
Oh,
you were
it's
just
not
more like
fair.
me, everything would be great. And it's your fault that you're not. I'm
Right.
perfect. What the fuck? And it's like doesn't take much reflection to realize the arrogance
Hmm.
in that, right?
Although
But
I
where
must
we all
say,
kind of start.
it's fun too to raise kids, because I'm teaching them about linguistic action. I'm teaching them the difference between saying, can you please, and would you please, and may I
Mm,
please? Because these
yeah.
have different meanings. And a lot of people like don't have the awareness of these specifics. They might have like a gut kind of instinct of it, but not as clear as I feel like rock solid about it. So it'll be fun to see like what happens over the next 20, 30 years.
For sure. I mean, and so are you very familiar with like NLP? Is that
Oh, you know what? For a time in my early 20s, I got super excited about NLP and yeah, I don't know much. I went as far down the rabbit hole of reading Bandler and Richardson's or whatever dissertation about the structure of magic. Uh, but no, not really. I don't have any current knowledge or experience with it. It sounds fascinating though.
I don't really either. I guess I just see it kind of as at a transition point on this spectrum of,
Hmm.
how we use speech to communicate versus how we use speech to manipulate.
Yeah.
And, obviously that's a normative framework that I'm imposing there to suggest that, communication, or maybe a better want to say is coordination versus
Hmm.
manipulation. And, are we mutually manifesting an intention that we're sharing and developing together, or am
Hmm.
I finding a more effective way to get you to do what I want you to
No,
do?
it probably
Right?
is the latter.
It's
And
probably
I think,
closer to the, yeah,
I
I
mean,
think so.
you know what? When we get good measurement tools coupled with some like really good regression analysis, in other words, AI to help interpret our bodily functions. For example, our pupil dilation rates changes according to how fast our brain is like learning new material. If I could get a machine that would give me like a red light, green light, yellow light on you about how fast you're processing what I'm saying, I could
Mm.
adjust my speech to speak slower when you like switch over to look at an email or something. Like,
Or maybe louder.
oh yeah, I can say like, Phil, come on, pay attention.
Yeah.
That is within, that is really within touch. And I think that kind of stuff is based on NLP thinking. And I believe there's a lot to it. It's just unexplored because we haven't, it's been like hedge witch kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I believe there's going to be science that catches up to it. I think there's I think there's really stuff in there.
Well, I think the general idea that we use language as a fundamental component with which we construct our reality
Hmm.
represents a vast array of tools to be used one way or the other. It's like the more, well,
Yeah.
actually, in my undergraduate thesis, I was looking at the Socrates character as he appears in Plato, and asking the question, does Plato really want us to trust Socrates? Because there's a lot of lesser dialogues where Socrates behaves in a way that doesn't induce trust on my part. And a lot of the classical response to this is to say, oh, well, that was just Greek culture was different, and he was in fact meant to be seen as this sort of hero of intellect and philosophy or whatever. But I don't know, something about I I couldn't shake off my sense that there was a deliberate attempt to make me also critical of this character. And in particular, there's some stuff that Plato says or Socrates, I don't know, he's the way that the dialogues are written, it's kind of hard to tell, whose voice you're listening to. But the there's this theme that's repeated throughout, which is essentially that the the better of grasp you have on discerning the truth, the more skill you have in manufacturing the lie.
Yeah. Awesome.
And
There it is.
and you know,
Back to
and so
linguistic action, assertions and assessments. Assertions are where there's this shared infrastructure. And so, what was fascinating to me was learning that engineers are trained, and so are doctors. Like they have a license to make facts. Your doctors, they have diagnoses. That's a
mm,
fact. Well, that's
right,
not a
right.
fact. That's an assessment. But we
Hmm.
say it like it's an assertion. So there's a trick to get people to believe in what you're saying. We want our assessments to sound like assertions.
Yeah,
And there it is. So I've got these letters after my name, and I will bring in this whole story so that you believe me.
yeah. And it's kind of, I'm reminded even of just like, I mean, finally the boy who cried wolf, he didn't he didn't believe him the first time because he was an expert wolf locator, right? He didn't have a PhD in wolf spotting.
Hmm.
He said, ah. and you look because that's what we do. People say, and
Yeah.
point, and you look.
Ah.
100% of the time, all the time, that's what you do. And you only stop doing that when you specifically come to
Mm.
distrust them or desensitize yourself to their attention
Yeah.
seeking or directing activities.
Ah.
And so it's like the stranger has a lot of power. The expert who's the stranger has even more.
Mm.
Maybe the diagnosis that's stated as an assessment that really, or as an assertion that really is just an assessment. Maybe if that doctor is also like your best friend or your wife or someone, maybe you do push a little bit further, really like, just kind of get more dialectical or dialogical with it
Hmm.
rather than just accepting it as like, oh, truth. But
Hmm.
it's kind
Yeah.
of these. So I find it interesting, and I think honestly, as I look at the outline now, and on the basis of this discussion, something that happens frequently when I look at an outline and think, oh, this is sufficient. I'm kind of wondering if maybe we should expand the first few segments out because there's obviously a lot to talk about and a lot to cover. It's kind of and in particular, there's a lot to relate to. I think that if we can discuss, teasing out a lot of the more a lot of the nuances just covered in like the first two or three episodes, it strikes me that that could be a year's worth of content in the outline you sent me weeks ago
Mm.
because I think that what finally makes good content is simply like having relatable moments,
Yeah.
right? Like where people can say, "Oh yeah, that I feel that makes sense to me, whatever," And it's like if we
Yeah.
allow ourselves to dig in deep on each of these bullets and like really flesh out
Mm.
and sort of co-create with our own language
Yeah.
these,
So there's
what do you
something
think?
else. If we're going to start to talk then about what do we want to do together for a podcast, we got to think too about like what sells. And I don't want to turn this into a curriculum of education
Yeah.
because there's lots of people doing that, and that's great. Um, you can sign up for classes and go to class, and I don't want to make this a training thing, but there is something I want to do because I've been seeing a pattern, um, mostly in like social media. Like guys will watch other people play video games, and not
Mm.
like guys will watch like a group of people play a video game, or guys will watch, not guys, I mean men and women will watch other people having fun. Like what we got to sell is actually like curiosity and the joy of being together and fun while we explore these things. So if we could just somehow weave this into how you and I are connecting with each other and enjoying the shared curiosity of like living and being while uh, becoming more self-aware and increasing the strength of our connection, people would, I think, gain joy and from observing that. And so, like, all we got to do, Phil, is be friends and hang out, and then like uh, name drop some of this stuff, or we can have a slide that shares it, and just continue to relate to the content. And I'd like to be specific about that because I do have a professional interest in like making money eventually by using this stuff more. And so not only do I want to like use it in my daily language with people like you, but I want to also build a repertoire of experiences using these frameworks so that I can have the skills of using these frameworks. So
Yeah.
I don't know how that might look, except to be like asking you what your mood is and sharing mine, at talking about my pain score and what actions I might take or requests I might make or declarations I need to in order to change and make myself better. That kind of
Yeah.
stuff. It's like a self-coaching kind of, if not too boring, or if this isn't just too much emotional work
Right.
or too much
I think,
disclosure.
yeah, which I guess is a fair question to ask. I personally am always err on the side of over disclosure. But that's because of the way I was raised. I grew up as essentially public property and had
Huh.
no private life to speak of. So
Huh.
it was just like, well, if I'm gonna be in the spotlight, then you're gonna have to look at me, and you know, I'm just gonna be this person now, and have to sometimes remind myself that now I'm not in that situation that I didn't ask to be. Now I'm in a situation I did ask to be,
Yeah.
and the audience is one I've agreed to and want to
Yeah.
have.
The
But
only
like with this
boundaries,
content,
go ahead. No,
well, I
you
was just to
first.
say this content in particular, it's the type of stuff that I have so many like recursive. It induces a whole world of moods and thoughts that
Yeah.
just cycle and cycle and cycle because it's like fundamentally, clearly, we're on to something here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the ways that it can be used and misused are so
So
like,
many.
and our whole world clearly is an example of that. Like our world of the attention economy, the
Mhm.
way that marketing works,
Doom
it's
scrolling.
yeah, and the construction of the hierarchies that make us feel like we
Mm,
might die on the hill rather than just like speak our mind to a person who we're working
right.
with, and just
Right.
all
Right.
of it. It's just clearly this is encoded and sort of yeah, it's everywhere. So I think that for me, it will be useful to have explicit like frameworks or points of reference to go back to just to keep me from going crazy, like or just like going off onto just the infinite spiral of whatever, uh, you know, and just to remind myself that this is not just what we what you will tolerate talking to me about, and where we happen to go, but like trying to bring it back to a coherent touchstone because there is finally, no matter how broad the arc gets, it does come back to these things. And
Mm.
it's useful for me to like keep in mind ultimately what the topic is that we're talking about, you know, because everything connects to everything and where's the beginning and where's the end? Well, it's where we say it is. And today we're saying it's this. So, we can relate it all back to this. I find that useful.
Hmm.
Um, but but it is also provocative for me that it's like a infinite. I feel like there's like not only no end because it's circular, but no end because even as we're taking a lap, it's recreating itself faster than we can go around. And there's the next time around the lap suddenly looks different even than the last time, and there's all that much more to say. And I don't know. I think there's a whole lot, but I also think that we perhaps then the way we go with that, if we, I think you're right completely about it being about us connecting. And I think that it'd probably be useful if we can format it in such a way where we can regularly bring other points of view in to sort
Mm.
of let that provoke more of the same. Even if we went a whole 12 or 24 episodes with essentially the same rubric as our topic, but just really letting it go and like sleeping on it, for the week or 2 weeks and like, oh man, I was thinking about what we said last week and I just think we're both crazy. And actually, I want to articulate the exact opposite point of view this week because it just didn't sit right with me or whatever.
Mm.
I I have that potential wrap, it's pent up in me,
Hmm.
and it's clear that when I talk with you, that that gets provoked, and I see a similar thing on your side. Although I admit the thing that is most mysterious about you to me
Oh.
is just how different our like actual work lives are.
Haha.
And
Yeah.
it's and I'm really fascinated. I want to know more. So
Oh.
it's like I want to understand because I get the sense that
Yeah.
it's an empathy uh horizon for me to some degree. Like I don't the way I live is so, I mean, everything's abnormal, but it's like I really don't feel like I can relate a lot to people who exist within more clearly defined structures. Uh, and I am aware that that's the overwhelming majority of people. And while I can imagine what it must feel like, it's baseless, it's infantile, it's
Uh-huh.
completely uninformed. I want to feel
Yeah.
through you, what that struggle is really like. And
Mm.
uh and
Well, I must tell
this
you, I have lived a very privileged life. Um, that I mean, that is the result of my family encouraged me to go to college, and I went to college, and then I got a job that was a salaried job, and I kept a salaried job while I continued to go to college, and I got two more degrees, so I've got 3 degrees, and I've got 20 years now of corporate history. But and so and I and you know and so I've like been able to have a lot more freedoms than most people because most people are stuck in the rat race of selling their time and making money by the hour, or being in leadership, which means they did that and now they've kind of graduated to be a manager or a manager of manager, or 20 years of doing that gets you to be a senior director, but it all still sucks because they're still dealing with the same problems of, when the hourly person breaks down on the job, who's a minimum wage worker, and all these people are, it's a scaled up set of minimum wage workers, or maybe they make 25 bucks an hour instead of 15, but it's like at that level. That's a tough environment to be in. And I've been a consultant to that environment my whole life because I've been able to amass this collection of specialties gained from specific experiences gained from college, or because I happen to have met this production management consultant that worked for Fernando Flores, and I got a job consulting, and I've been doing consulting for 20 years. So like my experience is pretty cush, buddy. But I like my job, and I worked 10 hours yesterday, but it's because like I'm tempering my commitments to what I'm ambitious about. And
Mm.
that's privilege. Like I really feel like I have 100% agency at my job. I'm well compensated for it, and I have great benefits. But I mean, my situation is not like I can't. I mean, I don't know who has a job like mine. I mean, I'm
You
like,
feel not like you don't necessarily have a lot of peers within that within your institution that
well,
you're in a pretty unique.
there's like a good handful of hangers on that are like got my job, which didn't earn it, and
I see.
I'm a little resentful for that because I've put in my time, man. I mean, you don't get two master's degrees in this shit and then 20 years of a career without like being responsible.
Yeah,
And
no
some people
doubt.
just have got like trained on the job and used to be administrative assistants, and now they're doing my job. And I'm like, well, you kind of suck at it, but we can get paid the same. That's fine. I don't care because I got my money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
um, that's just a little bit of personal information about where I'm coming from and what I can bring. But that's all good. I mean, like
It-
it's still a incongruency with what you're hunting to kill, eating to kill what you got.
yeah, or something. I don't even know. Honestly, it's just things are so chaotic and strange, and but 100% of my existence is I decided to do this today, and at most people have chosen to cooperate with me, but in no case was there like some no one's ever told me what to do. No one's telling me what to do, you know. And it's interesting how that linguistic construct changes the feeling of the thing, right?
Mm,
Because I can still sit here and be like, yeah, I'm a 7 on the pain scale, but how do I feel about being a 7 on a pain scale? Well, I
mm-hmm.
feel better than I would if that pain came from being told what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But but am I really? Is that just me diluting my, glossing over my pain,
Mm-hmm.
and telling myself a story to make myself feel better when in fact it doesn't make me feel better. I'm still in pain, right?
Yeah.
Like in an organismic or in a bodily sense. And but all that I think is super interesting, and I think all that stuff people can relate to because we live in a largely bullshit world, right? Or anyway, a world where the threat of looming bullshit is everywhere, right? It's there's you'll never enter into a place or time or setting in which the possibility of a tidal wave of bullshit crushing you is zero. And that's the world we've created. And
Yeah.
so I think there's a lot of I think as we talk about these things, I think a whole lot of people can relate to
Hmm.
that.
I
Yeah.
really admire how you have taken agency in your own life.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, the bold moves that you made in your young man's life was courageous.
Well, I appreciate that. I've made usually in my internal discourse, it's more stubborn, but it manifests the same way. And
Hmm.
but it does. Well, and then going back to the whole, you know, I, I I'm delighted and inspired, to hear you regard your to talk about your experience as one of being in so much privilege. And, uh, I don't. It kind of breaks the stereotype I have of imagining what a person who works at a corporation with thousands of employees in the insurance industry, no less. Like there's some raw material there out of which to construct a sort of nightmare.
Hmm.
Uh, and to hear that you're not living that nightmare is really inspirational to me.
Hmm.
Because it gives me hope that in fact there's more potential in this largely
Oh,
bullshit world we've built than we see necessarily actualized in
on
the type of
on the
freedom
other
I want.
hand, on the other hand, the people that don't have a shitty life are often it's often filled with nepotism. It's not a meritocracy.
Mm,
It's
for
political
sure.
environment, and my skill at navigating these relationships is much enhanced by these techniques learned from the coaching domain. And I very intentionally sell myself and my wares as benevolent practices that you can't really argue against. And so I very much manipulate the people around me to serve my own needs, to, conserve my security. And that's a long play.
Yeah.
With careful study, I've watched how teams should connect and how leaders should behave, and so I can say and espouse and teach the right messages that will be adopted and practiced, and I'll be rewarded for being the teacher and the leader of those things. And I'm like, it could also be said it's stubborn, you know. Uh, that's where I feel like we've got some shared experiences here, where it's like, I want my life to be a certain way, damn it, and I'm gonna make it happen. And I've gotten lucky because people like people with degrees, or people like people with credentials. And I saw that early on because of the exposures I got, because of the background I had. I mean, it still was up to me to, like, show up. And that's all I've been doing is showing up. But I mean, it's still hard as hell to show up.
Yeah. I think that that's kind of I don't know. Whether what we do is like courageous or stubborn, whether we're coordinating or manipulating, finally it all really does boil down to what our intentions are. And
Hmm.
and I think that's not a simple, even though I can say that as a simple statement, like our intentions are not ever simply fill in the blank,
Yeah.
right? We live in a world with all these tensions. And, you know, I don't, I think of myself and want to think of myself and will do all the mental gymnastics required to continue thinking of myself as an honest person.
Yeah.
But at the same time, um, the, in so many, especially as pertain to business and how we make money and how we secure our place in the economy, the critical test of my communications with a person is not, do they really understand what I'm requesting? Do they really understand what I believe they are agreeing to? Do they really understand what I believe I'm agreeing to? Do we share the same vision for the future that we're working towards? That's not the critical question. The critical question is often, will they give me their money? And do I have
Mm.
and then how much will what I had to do to get that money cause me to reflect shamefully or with guilt or whatever
Yeah.
on the specific
Right.
things that transpired to get there.
Yeah.
And
So to our frameworks of reflections, I hope we can find satisfaction in what we have to do to get so that we can both do a good thing and get money.
yeah,
And that's
agreed.
where I feel really lucky that like my younger sister was a millennial and they're supposedly archetypal about like doing the right thing. And I used a lot of that stuff, that influence as I was in like high school and in college trying to like choose my career path because I just wanted to like be the person my little sister wanted me to be. And so that's why I chose a lot of this stuff around industrial engineering and business and performance management and leadership was because I wanted to help leaders treat their staff well so that the workforce could be like more empowered and more agency in their own selves. And then it pays well too. Doing that work
Yeah.
pays well. And so I got lucky there. Like that's the intersection right there. That's the money intersection because yeah, because I feel really good about what I'm teaching and I got a job that's salaried. So thank you, world.
Yeah.
And what you said, like, and I mean, like, I don't have to really deal with the other part that you mentioned, that kind of like that dark side of it. And I never want to. It's like that's why I don't want to be independent consulting.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. You do stare face to face in every deal and every transaction with that how much energy you're willing to put into finding a version of the truth that's nuanced enough to facilitate the transaction
Mhm.
with a appropriately shared understanding or simply saying what the other party wants to hear. And and then feeling like you've rolled the dice to some degree with the extent that their life experience will come to check the math on them on that. And it's yeah. But that the framework too, I think maybe as an explicit thing to come back to a lot. There's a one of the management people that I've read the most who comes from a very different background, very conservative, like analytical background is Clayton Christensen, who is the coined the phrase disruptive innovation. And
Mhm.
he's kind of like Harvard Business Review type crowd, not very uh emotionally attuned necessarily. But one of the things he said that I think he meant very seriously was that his career was motivated by the reflection that management can be a noble
Mhm.
activity.
Mhm.
That it really is so impactful on people's lives,
Yeah,
and that whether you do it well or not is really a critical question, and that he was inspired by trying to provide people with tools so that they could do it well, and meaning,
there it is.
actually enriching people's lives. And that's a question I think that is worth coming back to, over and over and over again is what what does it mean to all of these tools we have in management, and how we're related to it as consultants or coaches or just actually doing the work of management. Um, what what is that noblest, or how can we be trying to find that nobler approach, and not just because at all times it's pretty easy to see it as, oh well, we're just operating our little slice of the empire for the benefit of global capital, and ensuring that all of us as fractionally owned and fractionally owning slaves, uh, just keep cranking, you know? And where is that? How do we understand the difference between just keeping the machine going and
Taking care of
doing
people.
good work? Yeah,
Yeah.
taking care of people. Exactly. And I want to be taking care of people. And I understand that part of that's going to be happening in the context of the machine cranking on.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, what are we doing? And how do we deal with that day to day?
Well,
So,
let's call it a wrap. Um,
all right.
I will send the frameworks for living notes to you in email, and if you've got any like pre-work for our next chat, let's just talk about that in text or email, and then we'll just do it again.
Sounds good. I
Thank you,
really
my
appreciate
friend.
it.
Me
Thanks
too.
again for being patient with me in this transition, but I'm real excited about what we got brewing. So
Me too.
thank
It's
you.
really nice to see you.
You too.
You take care, okay?
All right, you too. A good night.
Good night.